Welcome to Tucker Carlson Today. Andrew Tate, suddenly the most famous man on the internet, and then all of a sudden gone from the internet. A few days ago, banned by virtually every social media app on the internet around the world for reasons that no one explained and that are still not clear. Lots of mean things being written about Andrew Tate, but we have learned over time to trust our own experience. Don't believe what you hear, go right to the source. And so today we're doing that. We're speaking to Andrew Tate himself, who is joining us, as far as we know, from Bucharest, Romania. Andrew Tate, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, Tucker.
Of course. So why do you think, and this is a sincere question because I don't know the answer, why do you think you were banned from the internet?
I was banned from the internet for having massive influence over the youth and for not aligning myself with the liberal degeneracy in which they want me to purport to the young people of the world today.
Well, so I want to get much deeper into that, but I'm just immediately amused by the phrase liberal degeneracy because, of course, they're accusing you of degeneracy. So you're saying that you exposed how degenerate they are, and they are, of course, completely degenerate. What did you say that they couldn't tolerate?
Well, this is the thing that's interesting. I don't really feel like I've exposed anything. Like, I'm truly not a very political person. This is the first time someone's experienced this level of ban. I'm not particularly right-wing. I don't vote. I mean, I obviously have my own personal views, but they didn't ban me for that. They banned me simply because I had large swaths of the population agreeing to very traditional masculine values. Teenage men and young men, 22, 23, 24, were looking up to me and aspiring to be like me. I have a very traditionally masculine life. I have fast cars and a big house and a lot of money and a beautiful girlfriend. And they thought this was very, very threatening. And for some reason, they decided that it's better if they annihilate me from the internet and replace me with somebody who's more aligned with whatever they're trying to purport.
I sense that what you're saying is right. Again, I don't really know, but flesh it out a bit. Why would your message, your lifestyle, be so threatening to the people who banned you?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I've been banned under the guise of misogyny and dangerous person. And this is the first time this has ever happened. Like I said before, whenever this was happened, there was political affiliation, and now there really isn't. And it's a very slippery slope. I mean, it's dangerous enough when they're doing it to political rivals, but when they start doing it to anybody who simply says anything they don't like under any label, then this is the beginning of a large wave of censorship which is incoming. They said I'm misogynistic. They said that I say things which are degrading and damaging to women. I strongly reject that point. What I do is I try and stick up for men, and what I do is I try and advertise to the world and to the young men of the world that they should avoid low-quality people of all genders. And through clever censoring of me discussing important issues about men, and through clever editing of some of my videos from very long format into very, very short format, they've managed to media spin and purport the lie that I am some woman-hating misogynist when absolutely nothing could be further from the truth.
So I'm happy to let you speak for yourself. Tell us what your message is to young men.
Yeah, so I think that being a man is very, very difficult. I think that men's issues are largely overlooked. The people in charge of the world pretend to care, but when somebody who's championing men's issues like myself comes forward and finally manages to garner huge percentiles of the public support, I'm silenced. So they're not really interested in men's issues. And there's a lot of young men growing up today that feel very disaffected. They feel invisible. The agendas that are being forced down their throats are not agendas they align with or they feel affinity to or agendas they want. And I basically just say to men, look, it's a very hard life. You're going to need to get up, work hard, go to the gym. Strong body is a strong mind. You're going to have to reject listening blindly to everything you're told, reject the slave mind, think for yourself, get a strong network of brothers, work aside them. Don't tolerate low quality people in your life, which means don't tolerate men who just smoke drugs and play video games, or men who are disloyal or dishonest. By extension, don't tolerate women or girlfriends who are disloyal or dishonest, and try and build and create a reality full of high quality people in which you can resist the programming that the Matrix tries to influence you with, and grow up truly happy. And what happens is when I say these things, they ignore 95% of what I say. They ignore me saying that you need to avoid low quality men. And they take the bit where I say avoid women who are dishonest. And then they put it on a reel, a very short 3 or 4 second clip. And then they say I'm a misogynistic person and I'm dangerous to women and I need to be banned. And it's truly, truly, I've explained in my final video, which I'd like to talk about. I put a video up. It can be viewed now at www.freetopg, which is my nickname, topg.com. And I explained at length what has happened to me, how it was done, and why it's not true. And everybody knows it's not true, but they've just come up with the spin that I am somehow dangerous to women because I tell men to grow up and be the kind of man that we were all taught to be in the 90s and 80s anyway. I really am not saying anything controversial on any level.
Well, I'm not grounded in your work apart from seeing a few videos, but the message you just articulated strikes me as the best possible message. It's hard to imagine who could disagree with that. To give our audience some sense of the scale of your ban, so TikTok, I don't believe you had a TikTok account. Your videos were shared by others on TikTok, and they were one of the most widely viewed categories on TikTok, Andrew Tate videos. TikTok apparently has banned any video of you, not just ones you release, but ones in which you appear. So this is really a reaction without precedent. This wasn't done to the ISIS beheading videos, what they've done to you. So I just want to press you a little bit more on motive. We're both speculating, but it's really interesting. What about the message that you just articulated is so threatening to the people who banned you?
Well, I think that, and this is the true shame of it, and I want to make this very clear as a matter of public record, I have no interest in going to war with social media companies. I had no interest in trying to convert large swaths of the population to one political party or another. I had no interest in that. All I was doing was speaking from my personal experience about the difficulties of growing up as a man and how to get the best possible life experience as a man in the world today. And when you do that, you, unfortunately for them, you must teach people to resist the slave mind and to think for themselves and develop character and to learn how to stand up and do the right thing, even if it's difficult, and to not blindly accept programming and to not be physically weak and to not be mentally weak. And what you're doing is, I guess what I'm doing is I'm creating millions and millions of young men who simply won't listen to lies or swallow the garbage they're trying to feed them. And they see me as another way out. They look at a YouTube feed and they see all the videos they're supposed to like. They don't like any of them, and I don't blame them. They see me and they're finally like, wow, somebody who's aspirational, somebody who's living the life I want to live. I want to be like this guy. And they saw that as a threat. I made it very difficult for them to program the young men of the generation with whatever they want to program them with. And for that reason, they decided I was too dangerous to exist and I must be annihilated. If they truly cared about men's mental health, then they would have come to me and said, Andrew Tate, you have huge influence over a large percentage of the population. We're unhappy with certain elements of your messaging. Perhaps it needs curation, perhaps it needs editing. But we understand that you are so respected and so many men look up to you, we can't possibly just delete you from the internet. That's bad for men's mental health as a whole. You're championing issues which a lot of men struggle with. If they were worried about women, they could have approached me with the same rhetoric. Instead, they just decided, no, let's completely annihilate him. And let me make something very, very clear. There is nobody who is against me who has a genuine concern for women. And I'll tell you this now because I have no criminal record. I have never been arrested in any country and held on suspicion of anything. There were some incidents which I talked about in my final video in which I was swatted and accused of crimes I didn't commit. But there are plenty of people on social media with genuine criminal charges against women. I don't have any of these things. I haven't hurt any women. No women have come forward saying I've hurt them. There's not a single female who's making videos saying I hurt them. In fact, quite the contrary. There were videos on YouTube from women who know me very well saying this is all false and this is not fair, which have been deleted in real time by the YouTube censorship ever since I've been banned. But it's completely asinine. And what they're doing is they're weaponizing the idea of misogyny. They're pretending they care about women and using it as an excuse to cancel me. And it's nothing to do with women. Nobody is concerned for women because there's no reason for concern. The truth is they just want me gone.
I'm certainly willing to believe the last line. So news accounts in the United States say that the U.S. Embassy in Bucharest, Romania, was tipped off to your misdeeds and alerted the local authorities you might be committing human trafficking. Given that this is the same charge they leveled against Julian Assange or a species of it, skeptical, but I want to know the details. Were you arrested for human trafficking? What happened?
Yeah, I was not arrested. So what happened is I suffered from a case of swatting. It's very popular with people who are large on the internet. Many large YouTubers have been swatted. It's where you call the police and you say somebody has a gun or there's a hostage situation and the SWAT team arrives. Somebody made a phone call to the American embassy saying that I was holding women at my house. The police arrived. And let me state this now. I state this openly to the world. I have absolute respect for the police. I would hate to live in a country where if you call the police saying women are being held against their will, that the police don't respond. That would be terrible. Of course they should come and look. Absolutely. They turned up. They investigated. They realized that nobody was in the house against their will. There was no crime committed. They said, okay, you're not a suspect, but you are a witness to this, along with me, my brother, the housekeeper, the gardener. Everybody who was in the premises at the time was labeled a witness. We had to go to the police station for 45 minutes for pieces of paper. We filled them in and we were let go. I was swatted. Nobody was hurt. There's no human trafficking. There's no women who were tied up. There's none of these things. It's all just complete fallacy. And because I have a large number of detractors on the internet, they just take that narrative and run with it. He's a human trafficker. He's a human trafficker. I don't have any criminal charges. I'm not on bail. I can travel the world freely. No women were hurt. No women were found. But in the nature of the internet, when people dislike you and when the media is trying to spin a narrative against you, they just take little clips, they censor the truth, and they just try and spin it up to the point where they convince the world that I'm some extremely dangerous man who manages to also evade all law enforcement and run around hurting people. It's just not true. And anyone with a brain can sit here and realize how the media and how law enforcement can be weaponized against people. I discussed this in long, if anyone who's interested to understand the true story, in my long format video, freetopg.com. I explained exactly what happened. I was swatted like everybody else, but just because they put the tone of human trafficking on it, I'm now stuck with this very unfortunate label, and it's truly disgusting.
Where are you from? How did you get to where you are now? I probably should get a little background.
Sure, let's talk about it. I'm a mixed race individual. My father was black. He actually served in the Air Force. He was the 5 times Air Force chess champion, and he was a chess master, one of the best chess players in the world. My mother is white, and she is from England. I grew up in Luton, England, which is the worst town in England. To use liberal speak, I am a person of color. I guess you can say that. I did not come from a privileged background in any regard. My mother and father broke up. I grew up in a single mother household in Luton, England. And I worked very hard. I went to school. I obeyed. I was never a criminal. I was never a juvenile. I was never a delinquent. I trained very hard and became a professional kickboxer. Became 4-time kickboxing world champion. I retired from the sport, moved to Romania, which is a beautiful country full of beautiful people. I like it very much out there. I prefer Eastern Europe as a whole. I spent a lot of time in Budapest, Hungary also. And I've been living out here ever since. I started a YouTube channel, got an online presence on YouTube, and now I'm banned. That's a very short version, but that's basically what happened. And I've been banned for the reasons I've told you. I think I inspire men to resist the programming of the slave mind.
But how did you go? I mean, from my perspective, and I'm 53, so I miss a lot. But all of a sudden, you seem to be everywhere and in every conversation. How did you go from kickboxing to advising young men online? Like, how did that evolve?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I became the most Googled man on the planet recently, so I guess by some metrics you can call me the most famous man on the planet. And that happened very simply because I think that young men are looking for someone aspirational to look up to. I can only speak from my own personal experience, but young men we like to emulate our heroes, and we look at somebody who we want to be to some degree, and that's the kind of person we're going to listen to. And without that element of I want what he has or I want to be like he is, it's very difficult for young men to listen to anybody. And I think that there was a gap in the market. There's not very many people who are out here with a truly aspirational life and truly speaking their mind, right? Because we live in the digital world now where most of the famous people are very afraid to talk. A lot of the people who do talk freely are saying things that a large portion of young men don't really want to hear and don't resonate with. And I think I just stood up and started saying the things that all men think. And I also combined it with some clever delivery, a degree of humor, comprehensiveness. I worked very hard on my social media presence. And I also threw in some locker room talk. Like, I understand very well why the social media companies have chosen the misogynistic angle. But the things I was saying, really, I don't think were that offensive. I'd say, oh, you know, women can't park, or something that every man said in the locker room 10, 15 years ago. It's truly not that genuinely offensive. And it's just spiraled now to the point where I'm the most famous man in the world, and there's thousands of TikToks saying Andrew said women can't park. It's just crazy. It's truly media sensationalism. And they've tried to do that because they want that all these narratives pushed so they can ban me. But 95% of my content is purely just about mindset, fitness, training. There's nothing to do with the things they're accusing me of. Nothing at all.
So they've hit you pretty exclusively, from what I can tell, as you just said, on the women question. You hate women. What is your view? Again, I want to let you speak for yourself.
So, and this is a really good question. And I think in the modern world today, it's very unfortunate that if you tell the truth about certain things, people are going to label you certain things. But I'm just going to be very honest here on this platform. I absolutely love women. I have nothing against women. I've said many times on many different podcasts, which they seem to want to ignore, that my mother's a hero of mine. I have nothing against women on any level. I think that men and women are different. I think that we have different skill sets. I think that women are much better than men at certain things, and vice versa. And I think that if we work together as a team, that we can be a beautiful synergy. I think that's how society functions best, when a man takes his role seriously and a woman takes her role seriously, and they work together as a team. And I think that that's how society's always been for the longest period of human time. I think outside of the West, that's the way the society still is. I don't think it's really controversial to say that men are, for example, physically stronger than women, and women are, for example, more empathetic than men. I don't think that's controversial. Somehow that's managed to end up super controversial, and I've been accused of being sexist and misogynist and all these terrible things. But I truly believe these things, and I don't believe them in a negative connotation. I really don't. I think a man has a duty to provide for a female and protect her and take care of her. I think that it's a beautiful thing when a man does that. And I think the majority of women want a man who does that. I don't think they want a man who wouldn't do that. But by stating these things and saying these things, they have managed to twist my words and change them into the idea that Andrew says women shouldn't have jobs, they should only live off their man's money. Or Andrew said that men are strong, so women's opinions don't matter, or all these other crazy twists of my language. And it's truly just been internet sensationalism. I can talk at length about why this has happened. I think it's a two-pronged attack. But one is, there's certainly been an agenda against me for a long time. And the second thing is, the internet has changed a lot in recent history. We have to understand that social media today is not the same as it was 4 or 5 years ago. We're now living in the generation of extremely short format video. TikTok is only a few seconds long. So is Instagram Reels. So is YouTube Shorts. And if you ever watch a child on TikTok, or you ever watch anybody on TikTok, look how quickly they scroll. If a video doesn't get their interest, in half a second, they change video. So people are putting together the most shocking, sensationalistic things they can to try and get likes and views. So nobody's interested in taking my long format answers like I'm giving you now and understanding me. What they do instead is they take that tiny clip where I said men are stronger than women, and they put up a video of a guy weightlifting, and then they put up a video of a girl failing to weightlift, and then they put up a laughing voice, ha 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 ha, and then they throw it on TikTok, and now I'm a misogynist. But I didn't make that video. I don't know who made that video. Someone made that video, somewhere in the world. And it's all just ended up culminating in this media storm of me being a horrible misogynist who hates women, when I have no criminal charges against women. I've never struck a woman in anger, and every single woman coming forward saying my name is saying the absolute opposite. It's truly clown world, truly.
So I spoke to a young man I know who says that he first became aware of you a couple of years ago, and people in his social circle became aware of you for the same reason, which is because you're one of the only people on the internet raising questions about the effects of SSRIs on young people. Tell us your view of
Correct.
that, and why that topic?
Yeah, throughout the years I've been on the internet, and I've had a whole bunch of opinions, some controversial, some otherwise. And I've always been a person who spoke my mind. I say some things that people heavily disagree with. I'm antidepressants. I don't believe in antidepressant drugs. I don't believe in trying to take pills to alter your mood because you feel anxious or unhappy or depressive. I was anti a bunch of things when it comes to COVID and the vaccine and such. I've been anti a bunch of these things, and I've just been talking my personal view and my personal experiences. And I was never really looking to go to war with any of these large tech giants on any serious level. I was just like everybody else on the internet saying what he truly believed. I truly believe we live in a world now where information warfare is the true warfare, and narrative control is the true narrative control. Narrative control is the true weapon that the people in charge of the world need to create and protect. By making sure they can control what people see and how people think, they can genuinely affect reality in real time. And anybody who's a danger to that narrative on any level, for them, the risk isn't worth the reward, and it's better just to nuke that person absolutely. I don't know how I truly ended up in that category, because like I said, I'm just inspiring men to go to the gym and train hard and have standards for themselves and speak up for themselves, the forgotten young men of the world. But that's where I've somehow ended up. And yeah, I've spoken about a whole bunch of issues, but in general, most of the time I speak about very bland vanilla issues, Tucker. I would love to sit here and say that I've been the most controversial man on the internet. I truly haven't. It's really the level of censorship I've been struck with out of nowhere is truly shocking. And I can state here for everybody watching this, if you think that they won't get you, if they can ban me, they're going to ban all of you sooner or later.
Well, you're certainly right. You're certainly right about that. You made a couple references to the mental health of young men, and you just said you encourage them not to take drugs, which strikes me as the right message. Why do you think so many young men have mental health problems right now?
Well, this is the problem, is that the majority of young men in the world today are completely invisible, and social media has made them invisible. If you go into an Instagram feed, you have extremely beautiful women, which is fine. They're beautiful. They're allowed to take pictures. But the only men who have followers are men with massive social status, right? Men with Ferraris and money, or rappers, or people who have YouTube channels, interesting people. If you're a normal man with a normal job, you don't really exist in the online world. It's very difficult to get followers. Nobody replies to your DMs. You don't really matter. You don't have access to the sexual marketplace. It's very difficult for you to even get any kind of recognition that you're even alive. And a lot of men feel lost and lonely because of that. And I was championing to a degree their issues by saying to them, look, that is unfair perhaps, but that's the way the game works. You need to become a man of importance. You need to become a man of influence, or you're going to suffer the pain of being invisible forever. Here is how you do it. I wasn't trying to change the rules of the game. I was just telling the men how to win, because I came from nothing and I'm completely and utterly self-made. And I think the reason a lot of men are so depressed is because they feel invisible. They feel like life is too hard. Women expect me to be strong and smart and funny and interesting with a nice apartment and a fast car and tall and well-connected and funny. And it's just too much for them to handle. And the social pressure on men is absolutely immense. And I was championing their issues. And at the same time, all these social media platforms pretend to care. As soon as somebody they resonate with stands up and champions their issues, they mass blanket ban me, which shows they have absolutely no care for the young men of the world today. They think that by banning me, I'm just going to vanish and the young men are just going to go and start eating the gruel that they're fed on their YouTube feed. They don't want to read. They don't want to see transgender people wear makeup. They don't want to see that. They want to see a man who has a bunch of money and a nice life and some fast cars and is strong and is confident. They want an action hero. And that's something that large portions of the world still want to be. And YouTube and social media platforms obviously just don't like the idea of that. They want to get rid of me and try and replace me with something they see as far more malleable, trying to create people which are more malleable and more easy to program and more easy to control. Because people like me, when you try and tell me something, I'm very good at understanding that 99% of the opinions people want you to believe is for their own benefit as opposed to your own. And it's very, very difficult to program my mind. And I don't think they want people like me roaming the earth.
You've said that you prefer living in Eastern and Central Europe, Bucharest and in Hungary. How are the attitudes there different about men, do you notice, since you've lived in the UK, the US, and now there?
It's actually very interesting because the things I say, which are deemed controversial in the West, are completely normal and standardized here. It's completely normal for the idea of, if a family were to go on a long drive at night in the dark and it was raining and it was a dangerous road, the man would probably drive. That's accepted over here. If I say that in the West, I'm sexist. The idea that a man is responsible for financially providing for his family and physically protecting his family, that's completely accepted over here. In the West, I'm a misogynist. It's truly crazy. The place I live is not even the reason my views are what they are. It's just, I think a lot of people actually agree with me. I think it's just a very, very vocal minority which have decided to purport this idea that I hate women. I don't know in how many ways to state that I don't hate women. There's no evidence I hate women. No women are coming forward saying I've ever done anything. There's no evidence at all. It's just TikToks edited up to make me look bad, made by people I don't know, and the media latching onto it and deciding, you know what? COVID's over and everyone's bored of Ukraine, so let's hate Andrew Tate for a while. And hopefully next week they'll find something else to talk about. But it's truly asinine. It's immature. It's childish. And banning me from social media, as we've discussed, is bad for the world. I truly believe that. And I really think it was a mistake. And I think it was a mistake because I think this is the first time the social media companies have banned someone for a non-political reason. And it's really got a lot of the young people of the world thinking now. And they're sitting and thinking, going, okay, well, the politics stuff, that's kind of like, you know, older stuff. But why are they banning him? Like, why are they, is this what they do when you become influential? Why have they really banned him? I've had over 100,000 emails of support since my banning. And the young people of the world today are going to wake up from this banning in a way that they've never woken up from any others, even Trump's. I really do believe that because they're seeing their hero banned for basically no reason. And they're understanding that there's something else going on. And I think they've overplayed their hand on this particular time.
Do you have I mean, you say things that people become hysterical about. What, if you thought that, why wouldn't you just say it? Do you have any recourse? Can you get back on social media?
Well, I think if the social media companies had a genuine worry or a genuine interest in men's mental health or in female safety, they would keep me on social media and work with me to create my message. I hate to keep referencing it, but for all the people watching this who want to really, truly understand what happened, please go to freetopg.com and you can see the whole 1 hour story from start to finish of how I became famous online and why I'm now being unfairly targeted. I don't think they're ever going to allow me to come back onto traditional social medias, and that's fine. Even if they did, I'm not sure if I'd be particularly interested in investing in platforms that will just destroy me and nuke me at will for basically no reason. I've already had an offer from a very fantastic platform called Rumble. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're a YouTube competitor. Yes. But I'm working closely with Rumble now, and I can be found on Rumble, rumble.com/Tate Speech, which is a play on hate speech because we already know how that's played out for censorship. And I think this is going to be a really interesting period of human history. What the people in charge of social media companies have done is they've banned the most popular figure on the planet amongst a young generation who have no problem downloading a brand new app onto their phones to watch their hero. And it's not like an election or something where the person you've banned will go away for a few years. The issues I discuss are issues men face every day. They're issues men struggle with every day. The advice I give is advice they're always going to want daily because it's reacting to the problems which life feeds them. And they're not going to just forget about me and hope and just think, oh, I'll just forget about him then and be hopeless. They're going to follow me wherever I go. And I think that there's going to be a genuine mass exodus away from these platforms because they've banned me, which is very bad for them. And it's bad for humanity as a whole. Everything could have been fantastic. 4 or 5 days ago, there was no problems. I had social media accounts and everything was fine, but they decided to do this. So I'm going to move to Rumble and I'm going to continue my mission of philanthropy. I'm not doing anything other than just telling young men how I became a man of substance and how they can do the same thing.
You probably made some of these companies mad with your views on COVID. So sum up for us, if you would, what you think the response to COVID globally did to the populations of the West.
Yeah, so I certainly made them mad with my views on COVID. I don't want to go to conspiracy theory, and I would also never kill myself. Let me just say that here for the record. But okay. At the time of COVID first being announced, my brother and I decided we sat and had a very logical conversation, and we sat and said, we're two young fighting age males. If COVID can kill us, then the world is over. It's zombie apocalypse time. So there's no point hiding. We may as well go out with a bang. So my brother and I flew to Stockholm, Sweden. Now, I don't know if many people know this, but Sweden never closed down. Stockholm and Sweden never closed down, never made you wear masks, never mandated the vaccine. At the very beginning of COVID, when the rules were strictest, when Florida was still closed, when Miami was still closed, when the Republican states were still closed, Stockholm, Sweden was wide open with full nightclubs and a party scene like you've never seen. And we lived in Sweden for 3 solid months with zero restrictions, zero worry or interest in COVID. It was like the world was completely normal. And from there, when we left, obviously COVID was still going on. And in a neighboring country, you go to Germany, and they were having full panic attacks, genuine panic attacks if you didn't have a mask on. And it was just very obvious to me. I was like, I've spent the last 3 months ignoring this and I'm fine. And now I'm in Germany surrounded by panic attacks and endless masks. This doesn't make sense. And I told the truth on social media. I said, this is obviously an overreaction, the decimation of your income, the fact you can't go get a doctor's appointment for a genuine ailment or a genuine risk of cancer, for example, the fact that you can't see your loved ones in their final days. These things are far more destructive than the common cold. I think that what they're doing is unfair. I think it's a massive overreaction. And this is based on my personal experience. And I think at the time there was a lot of pushback, but I would like to think now that 99% of the world see I was totally right. You know, it's kind of funny, Tucker. I'll tell you, when at the height of COVID, I used to say to my brother, how will people struggle with the cognitive dissonance when this is all over? Because COVID is still out there. Nothing's gone away. The thing that we were all hiding from is still right there, out there to get you. But now everyone walks around and they're not scared of it anymore. And I'm like, are people critical enough to analyze themselves and say, for a year of my life, I was deathly afraid of something. Now I'm exposing myself to said thing and I'm not afraid anymore. The media tricked me and I was a fool. But they're not. They don't even seem to self-analyze and go, I got tricked. They're just like, oh, okay, next thing. Hey, Andrew now. Like robots. It's mind-bending to me, truly.
So I saw you compare the experience of rich people under COVID, you're one of them, to everybody else. What did you notice about that? It seemed like a two-tiered response.
Yeah, so the story was very simple. I was flying inside of Europe. There's a lot of low-cost air carriers. It's only low-cost primarily. There's not much first class, business class, anything like that. And I was flying, and my experience was plagued by endless paperwork, wearing a mask, put the mask over your nose. Every time you eat, you have to put the mask on in between. I got told off for not having the mask up high enough. I got told off for drinking too long because my mask wasn't on. Pure panic and chaos. And because I'm fortunate enough to be fiscally secure, from there I decided I'll just buy private jets from now on. And when I bought a private jet, there was no masks, no paperwork, no mask at the airport when I landed. My air stewardess was not wearing a mask. My pilot was not wearing a mask. COVID didn't exist once I bought a private jet. Very interesting. Maybe if you're rich enough, COVID can't take, maybe COVID's scared of money. I'm not sure. But it seems that everyone who's flying on private jets never had to worry about COVID ever. It's just the people at the bottom who had to worry about COVID. And it's kind of interesting, right? Life's always been two-tiered. There's always been this separation in regards to fiscal access. But I think a lot of people in the world today don't realize that it still very much exists. And a lot of the rules are only the rules for a certain class of people. And once you pass a certain wealth index or a certain level of money, that you can do basically whatever you want. And COVID really highlighted that to me. And it's truly sad. I mean, it's easy for me to make a joke of it, but when I would fly on a private jet and do whatever I wanted, or go to Sweden and party in nightclubs and do whatever I wanted, and then I'd come to, let's say, England and see my friend who couldn't go see his dying grandmother because of a COVID restriction, that's truly sad. That's truly criminal. It's really crazy what's happened and how the world's just moved on, and the cognitive dissonance that people don't have enough respect for themselves and for the truth to analyze how they were so easily fooled. It's really sad to even think about, but maybe that was the beginning of me being disliked, by just pointing out my human experiences during the pandemic.
Last question. Unpack the sentence you just uttered. You said people don't have enough respect for themselves to analyze the ways they were lied to. That's an interesting sentence. What does that mean?
It means that if I was fooled, if I was one of the people on social media who was genuinely purporting the idea that people should be locked in their homes nearly indefinitely because of a common cold, if I was fooled like that, I would feel deep shame. And I would really take some time and look in the mirror and analyze who managed to trick me to such a degree, how my mind got so poisoned, how I got plagued to such a level. And I would feel deep shame, because I would understand that my words had repercussions, and that I have been purporting a worldview or a narrative which has been genuinely destructive. And I would sit there and I would be upset and angry and sad. And I think, I can't believe they've managed to do that to me. And I can't believe that I bought into it and did it to other people. But unfortunately, there's people out here who a year ago were running around screaming at other people in the street to wear a mask, who are now not wearing a mask themselves, despite the fact that COVID still exists. And they don't have enough self-respect or enough respect for the truth to even feel sorry or shameful for what they used to do. It's incredible to me. Don't you have any ounce of honor? Like, look what you've done to the world. You were screaming in people's faces. Now you're out here without a mask on yourself. It's truly amazing, the cognitive dissonance that people experience. And it's the same now. There are people watching videos of me saying I'm a misogynist. And no matter how many times I prove them otherwise, because the Daily Mail said the word misogynist, it just simply must be true. And these people are so deeply stuck inside of the matrix that it's difficult to even, what can we do as rational adults? You must struggle with this yourself, Tucker. How many times have you tried to tell the truth to people? It's crazy. It's a crazy world we're in. I don't know how I even got here. Now I'm on your show for being a misogynist. It's mind-bending.
If I have a question about what someone believes, I think the first step is to ask that person. And I think most people are willing to say what they believe. And I take them at their word, and I take you at yours. I asked you, do you hate women? You said, no, I don't. And you explained your views on women. But you are on the record saying that you hate tap water. And I want you to explain your bias against tap water.
Yeah, so in my long career online, I was trying to say some things. Like I said, I've said many things for comedic effect. And my brother and I come from very humble beginnings. We started with absolutely no money, and now we're doing kind of okay for ourselves. And in one of our lifestyle blogs, the waiter asked if we wanted sparkling water or still water. And I said, only sparkling. I don't drink still water. And the person we were with said, why don't you drink still water? And I said, because the government will give you that for free. You have to buy sparkling water, and I'm rich. And it was a joke, and it's just blown up. And now rich people drink sparkling water, and tap water's for brokies. And that's just kind of how it's gone. I'm a victim of my own success. I've been massively, massively viral. Everything I've ever said has become a thing. And some of that's good, some of that's funny, and then also a lot of that's been used against me in this false narrative. But I want to tell you something that's actually kind of scary about this banning. It all came so hard and so fast that I don't know if they all just follow each other. I don't know if they're all influenced by each other. I don't know if there's someone above them all. I don't know. But when they go to cancel you, ladies and gentlemen, it comes hard and fast. You lose your Facebook, then your Instagram, then your Gmail, then your Discord, then your website hosting, then your domain name, then your payment processor, then your bank. Then it's just like in real time, you're watching your phone and apps just exploding. Boom, boom, boom. It's crazy. I don't want to go conspiracy theorist. I'm just telling people what I've been through. It's really crazy. And if they'll do it to me for saying women can't park a car, which was a joke, sorry world, then they'll do it to basically anybody. And you have to be prepared for that. And that's one of the reasons why I've moved to Rumble now, because I've had long conversations with senior management there, and they promise that I can make jokes without being destroyed and annihilated, which is quite refreshing. So I very much look forward to continuing my legacy and continuing my work on Rumble, rumble.com/TateSpeech. And I know for a fact that my young fans will come with me. So this is just the beginning of a mass exodus away from the influence of control by tech companies, because they decided that they didn't want to allow the most respected and famous person of the time, currently, things change, for young men to make a joke or to be on their platforms. And it's going to be a very interesting few years from here on out.
I'll say this. No sin you've committed is half as threatening as what they just did to you. That is threatening. And we appreciate your taking all this time to talk to us. Andrew Tate, interesting conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
Tucker Carlson, today's name in the show. New episodes 3 days a week on Fox Nation. We'll be back every weeknight, 8 p.m. on the Fox News Channel.